This is Power Athlete Radio. With your hosts, Denny K, Professor Booty, and the Luke Summers. And now, toes forward, hips locked, shoulders set, and retract those scapulars. It's time for some knowledge bombs.
What up, Power Athlete Nation? Welcome to episode 74 of Power Athlete Radio. That's right, 74. Shit. Almost going on 2 years. This is Denny. I'm here with John, Luke, Tex, and Callie. How's it going, guys?
What? What the fuck? No, we're happy to be here. Callie, by the look of excitement and fever on Callie's face, I'm not sure what's going on over here.
No, when you said 2 years, I don't know why, but John and I looked directly at each other, and there was just a moment of, oh my God.
Last time I saw that look on somebody's face, they were brushing their teeth with a 45, so I was just clanking around, just brushing the teeth with a hollow point bullet in the chamber.
Has it been 2 years?
It's been close, at least a year and a half. At least a year and a half, right? 52 weeks in a year. It's
4 weeks.
74, really 75 weeks.
I think we're ready for a greatest hits album.
Danny, I'm looking right now for a quick search, and it's not popping up what the first one is.
The very first one, it's hidden. It's hidden deep in the
archives.
land. Yeah.
Yeah. In the annals.
In the annals.
Annals. Or annals.
It's deep in the annals.
Annals.
Oh my God.
Wow. So, John, you and Tex went to Germany last week. How was that?
It was good. Luke and
start off with how I ended up going in Luke's place.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna do before I got interrupted. So, but what happened is Luke and I were supposed to go to Germany to teach a seminar for 37, 38 new souls that were looking to be indoctrinated into the CrossFit football methodology. And on the way to the airport, Luke was a little flabbergasted, a little overwhelmed. We were trying to do T-shirts. We were, in a rush. We stopped to get gas. He starts working to try to rearrange, repack, and get everything all situated for our flight. And he takes his backpack out of the car. We get in the car. We drive away. As I'm driving, I look and go, dude, where's your backpack? All of a sudden, holy shit. So we
you mentioned it 5 seconds after we left, but the gas station that we had was right off the freeway, and
there was
John
no easy
leisurely pulled away from the parking lot and leisurely gently rolled through a red light or two to get right onto the freeway because we were late.
Yeah.
But no, if you've ridden with Wellborn, he hammers it. And we were on the freeway, and it was 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Like any other gas station, we would have just whipped to you and been there, no problem. But it was this gas station, this exit. But we pulled a big loop around and got there maybe not. Wouldn't you say it was 90 seconds, 2 minutes maybe?
Yeah, it was pretty close. Yeah, it was enough to just get on the on-ramp, get back on, kind of loop it around. It had to be under 5 minutes. And
you said you were there so fast that the guy adjacent to you is still pumping his gas.
Yeah, there were people still there. And so we go back in, and when we drove away, I guess somebody grabbed Luke's backpack, which had his passport, his new Compex muscle stim machine, and what else? Your computer.
Computer, lots of wires.
Yeah, lots of wires.
Various charging wires.
Also, our Well Food Co. MREs.
Yeah, 3 Well Food Co. MREs, so over 3,000 calories worth of sustenance.
And all that stuff you were smuggling into Germany.
No, that was in his butt.
That was safe.
Yeah, that was in the
I know
safe.
where to keep my
Also
passport.
known as the butt.
Check the butt.
So all of a sudden, we're in a dead panic because there's no way that he's going to be able to get on the flight to Germany without a passport. So as we're driving, the best he could do was to go get a rush and then leave the previous day at 6 p.m. We checked a flight for Cali at $6,000, so we kind of scrapped that one.
Apparently, I'm not worth it.
Yeah. It was $6,250, and I'm like, so that's a little bit more than we expected.
And I mean, Tex was like 61.78.
Yeah.
So.
Well, actually, Tex was 6,300, but he was closer, so it was easier.
Okay.
Actually, Tex was he was about 1/10 the price, so I had to make an executive decision and go with the.
Well, you get what you pay for.
Yeah. So we hit up Tex and sent him in. I mean, there was a thought there for a little bit of fear in my heart that I was going to have to show up solo and coach for 67, 68 people, which would be absolutely hilarious. And
I'd love to see that.
Oh, it would have been bad. It's only happened.
No, it was great. I got the call from John, and they were a bit in a panic trying to explain the story, but it was like, bottom line, it was like that scene in The Town where Ben Affleck walks in. He's like, I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. Never ask me about it later. And we got to hurt some people.
So the guy goes, we taking your car or mine?
Yeah.
Who's driving?
So, yeah, I got that call and was like, I'm going Oktoberfest. Let's do it.
So, yeah, he jumped on a plane. And, yeah, I mean, probably the coolest part is I decided to go down, and the place we stay at is the German hub, like the German, like, central hub for the Big Green Egg barbecue. So they cook all their meat on the Big Green Egg. Those of you guys know I have a Big Green Egg and big fan of it. So all of a sudden you walk in and I'm like, oh my God, it's Big Green Egg. So 3 years ago, so we always stay at this place. On the little like chalkboard they have for their special, American Tomahawk Steak. That's all they said. So it's like, oh, that sounds delicious. I'm going to have that. And Tex is like, oh yeah, I'll have that too. Not realizing there was really nothing else. They bring out, seriously, something that you remember in the Flintstone cartoon?
Yeah.
When they like throw like the big thing of rack and like the car tips over. That's what they brought to us. We were like, mother of God, and sat down and crushed this thing. And,
was it pretty good?
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Was it on par with Kobe Tomahawks?
Nothing is on par with Kobe fucking Tomahawks.
Because that whole experience was amazing.
Yeah. Remember you guys looked at me and I was like, order the Kobe fucking Tomahawks. It was pretty good. So we went over the next day to the gym, had a great experience, had a really, really interesting cast of characters. We had one dude that had this like crazy-ass mustache that was Brazilian, but he lived in Italy and was actually a really solid mover. And then we ran into Nono, who's one of our coaches, or one of the coaches for Box Singular in Madrid, and that was his second time coming. It was great because I had met him 2 years ago at our first one in Nuremberg, and he was kind of a tall, kind of skinny, kind of gangly looking dude. And then all of a sudden, I like see him raise his hand. He's like, no. I like looked at him and I was like, holy shit, he put on easily 20 kilos, and his girl was there, and dude, she had traps coming out of her ears, and they've been CrossFit Football faithful since that seminar, and it was pretty impressive to see the gains that they've made. So I was pretty excited to have somebody there that's been doing the program and really had some great stuff for us. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and there's a few other field strongers in the crowd, so we were able to teach the warm-ups just more effectively. There was not really slow paced. It's great.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Yeah, it was cool. It's always great to have somebody kind of roll up on the field strong stuff. There's like, we need like a secret handshake. It should be like the two fingers, like the bullhorns, with like a finger or something. So we were trying to come up with a secret handshake for field strong. But yeah, and then it was kind of cool. A couple guys grabbed me and they asked about the banded walks and some of the movements and what I was really going for, and I kind of coached them up on some of the movements, which was even more confusing to other people that weren't field strongers. So they're like, what is this? What are you guys doing? And so we talked a little bit about it.
Yeah. You gotta make it,
yeah, one of the guys said he reads the narrative and he's like, I feel like you're speaking to me. I feel like I may let you down.
Yeah, he said, he goes, I have to do the training every day because when I read the narrative, I feel that if I miss the training, I'm going to let you down and you're going to be upset at me. And I was like, I will be. Don't ever miss the fucking training.
Just say, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Oh, God, boy, you just sound like Mel Hinsman right there. You just channeled Mel.
I know.
It's weird. It's like you had a pearl necklace on all of a sudden.
Well, ever since I turned 30.
Yeah, next thing you know, she's wearing epaulets with a tank top.
Anywho.
So, yeah, we had a great time. Went down to the downtown part of Nuremberg and got to see, like, behind, like, the city wall where, it was originally a Roman town. So
have you ever been to Germany during the holidays?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah,
that's when I want to go.
So, like, never during Christmas. But we went, I think, last year in November. Was that it? Or 2 years ago in November. And these guys went in October. And then, yeah, it was a pretty good adventure. And it was just great to see that many people. We had a pretty good turnout. And it was great. We had people from... 2 field strongers from Switzerland, and we had people from Spain, Italy, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Germany. We even had one guy come from Thailand. So, yeah, Ma Cheng, or CrossFit Chiang Mao, and he's an expat rugby player, professional rugby player who's coaching over there. So he came over to get some more stuff. He was pretty great. We had a great conversation. So for the most part, it was pretty exciting, and the hosts were awesome as usual. And
were you crushing that Reebok or the CrossFit Nuremberg coffee?
Yes.
Dude, that coffee machine's amazing.
The only problem was, and I don't know, you guys listening that are in the United States, I mean, the one thing you don't do in the U.S. is serve somebody undercooked pork.
Yeah.
But in Germany, like, pork is, like, served medium rare.
Yeah.
So I was telling Luke that for lunch, they brought us this big, like, pork belly, and it looked like bacon. And as I'm cutting into it, I'm like, man, this stuff's still pink. And he's like, oh, yeah, don't worry about it. He goes, only Americans are worried about undercooked pork. And I was like,
well, I can see, like, pork loin being a little on the rare.
No, it was pork belly. So, yeah, I have that with, like, a massive thing of sauerkraut. And I don't know if you guys know much about sauerkraut, but
he's like, the sauerkraut will kill anything that's
real sauerkraut is fermented. I mean, that's why it's sour. So it's, has some, natural probiotic, and is pretty good for gut biota. But mixing a little raw pork with sauerkraut and a bunch of that strong coffee
really expedites.
Yeah, let me tell you, it'll cause some problems. Like, at one point I was like, I feel like I got knifed in the stomach, and I was like just sitting down during the programming talk, and then I was like, and Tex will be coming right in to talk about the rest of this. He looks at me as I sprinted out, It was I was like, man, raw pork? And the guy's like, only Americans have problems with raw pork. I'm like, I think everybody has a problem with raw pork. Is it just me?
That's so cool that you had so many international attendees. I always think it's so neat. It makes the world feel a lot smaller when you have, like, people from all those different backgrounds coming, like, internationally to, like, a central location like that. It makes me feel like when we go to...
we do something cool. Or the other better part is when they've read and listened to all the podcasts, read every single Talk to Me Johnny, and will ask me, like, ultra specific, like,
we are way bigger
like
overseas than we are in the States.
Yeah, like, it was cool. Like, people were like, when you wrote this, and I was like, oh my god, I wrote that like 4 years ago. Yeah, we sell a lot of shirts in Ghana. So no, it was great, but I think it just goes to show we got a pretty good international pull, and hopefully in 2015 we can get out there and go visit more people and go out and do it a little bit.
Strictly international tour.
Yeah, I love it. We're not even coming back to the U.S.
Allie and Tex are not going to have permanent residence in the States. You'll just be in all 15 countries that we're going to hit.
Yeah.
From month to month.
Who's driving the van?
Well, you're backpacking. You're hitchhiking. It's going to be
good thing you got a small purse, small laptop.
It's tiny electronics.
Yeah.
So, John, are you getting any positive feedback regarding the cat cycle in Field Strong?
Yeah, I mean, I think what was cool was the guys that were there when we went to do the back squat work, and we had them working up to a heavy triple. You could see the guys that were in Field Strong that were doing the cats. So as I was walking around, obviously just fixing bar position and, stance, and, it's always great when we go in and we talk about our movement, like, hey, this is how I want you to squat, this is why I want you to squat this way, and how it translates. And then, of course, people, get a little bit with their ego. Well, hey, this is how I've been doing. And I tell them, I'm like, hey, dude, you can do anything you want, but here's the deal. I need you to lie to me. Pretend that we're at a bar and you're trying to take me home and you're going to say whatever you have to do to make it happen. That's what I want from you. And this dude kind of looked at me all strange. I'm like, I'm kidding. Just do what I fucking want. And then once you leave, if you don't like it, you can go back to what you want. And it was killer because the guys that were doing Field Strong, I was watching them, it was cool to coach them up and be like, hey, I need a little more speed out of the bottom. I want you to really speed up that transition, and I want you to vertical jump that thing once the mechanical advantage increases. And it was great to watch the guys that had been doing Field Strong working on really accelerating the bar, because even though, when I get up and I talk about the back squat, I always talk about compensatory acceleration, Dr. Squat, the idea, mechanical advantage. We go through the whole deal, but, like, it never sinks in. And then when we watch the people that haven't been in Field Strong that are doing more CrossFit football, they drive out of the bottom and then they kind of coast to the top, whereas the Field Strongers were working on accelerating the bar. So I don't know how to, like, really get that across without really, kind of pushing it out there. But, it was cool to see those guys. We are finishing, actually, we're just starting our third cycle of prioritizing the cat stuff, and I threw in the heavy walkouts on Monday because after this squat cycle, we are going to test our 1RMs again, and I'm excited to see where people are. I think by really focusing and prioritizing speed and then, giving a little bit of overload with the walkouts, and doing some stuff. We're also going to add some reps. I found a kind of an interesting deal before I left. where I was squatting my singles, and for every rep I added, I actually got faster. So reps 6 and 7 were faster than 4 and 5. So we're going to add some reps to those singles, and I'm going to add a set to the triples next week. So, and then we're going to back it off, and we're going to see what happens when everybody does some more RMs. And I have an expectation of what's going to happen. Now, whether or not that happens, I don't know. But based on the programming, we're going to find out and see if really prioritizing the speed. I mean, Luke and I had a great conversation today. Ashley Pataki, who's Luke's girlfriend, has been on the linear progression and really fighting her way in CrossFit football and has made some phenomenal gains for the last year or so. And he brought her in and put her on the Tendo, and she was...
It's like 40-45% of her last 1RM, which would be the last total. So, and she's still linear progressed. She's gone through another reset, and I can't remember what her 3x5 is, but it was like 40% of her last 1RM, and she couldn't break 0.7 on the Tendo.
Yeah, I mean, so our gold standard is 0.8 meters per second, and the range we really look for is like 0.7 to 0.9, as long as you're in that, better than 0.7. And what was, like Luke and I, for example, pulled the deadlifts today, and it doesn't matter if it's 405 or 535 or whatever the hell I pulled last week. Like, I was stuck right at that, like, 0.5, 0.6. I think the fastest I had was 0.7. But on the squat stuff, I mean, as I did the singles last week, every rep kept getting faster, so it makes me realize that neurologically we got to either prep everybody better, or we just got to give people enough attempts for them to start learning that speed. The other big thing too on the cat stuff is making sure that you're resting enough in between sets. Luke and I did a Monday, Tuesday, and then we did Thursday on Wednesday, so we only had 48 hours instead of our 72 hours, and no matter how long we rested, we couldn't get the speed up. So there's something to be said about letting the CNS rest and giving yourself enough time in between sets, because ideally we're looking for speed, but the problem becomes that unless you have a Tendo unit, it's like we joke around all the time, like we won't perceived, yeah, like I'm not looking at the Tendo, but I'll watch him, I'll be like 0.67, he'll be like 0.73, I'll be like, ooh, and then I'll be like, okay, that one's a 0.7, he's like 0.58, I'm like, damn. So we try to actually guess so that we can, start to do it. But
so back to Ash though, because I think that that's probably symbolic of a lot of people's problems. I mean, do you think that she's slow because she's been grinding so long in the linear progression?
So
now, but she's got.
Well,
she has room still to get even stronger.
Sure.
So what do you? So it's like, where do you?
There has to be a balance, and I found this out myself, and I think I've told the story before, but probably four years ago, Rip sent me over this advanced template he wanted me to try, and he wanted to know if an advanced athlete could actually squeeze more out of the linear progression. So he had me linear progress that 5x5, and you guys have heard us talk about this on the podcast more than a few times.
But that's it, if they haven't.
Okay, so the story was I ended up starting at 435, and I end up linear progressing it, adding 5 pounds to the squat every time I go up, and I ended up at started low, tried to give myself a big run. I think I ended up at like 505 for a set of 5. And I had to rest like 10 to 12 minutes in between sets because the weight just literally just got so heavy, and each rep was like a limit rep, and like each set was like a limit set. Like I had to talk myself into it. And
oh my God, that sounds awful.
It was ugly. It took me over an hour to squat
5 sets of 5, yeah, at least.
It was 25 reps at 505.
5 sets of 5.
And you know what? Like that shouldn't have been heavy. So all of a sudden I get done with the program, and based on that 5 sets of 5 at 505, I should have been good for in the mid 6s, probably based if you look at the progression. It's like when I did the 20 RM at 405, I should have been good for like 600 or 700, and it didn't work that way. But I came back in, I squatted my singles, and I was barely eking out 600 pounds on those singles. And just about that time, I got a phone call just fortuitously, just basically just on on luck. Louis Simmons called me about helping him and sitting on the board for his seminar series. So we started kind of talking, and he asked me what I was doing for my training, and I told him, and he comes up and he's like, what, that's 5x5. You're basically doing 2,500 pounds per set, and he looked at the tonnage times 5. You're doing, what's that? 2,500 times 5 would be 12,500 pounds per squat workout. He's like, that's more than the guys that are 1,000-pound squatter. So he's like, I think what you got to do is, you either got to cut your tonnage or you got to do this. And so then I ended up going out to Westside shortly after. And the one thing that Louis really observed was he's like, dude, you're pretty strong, but he's like, your inability to move the bar fast is hindering your speed. And he was like, I want you to do some dynamic work, I want you to do singles. And we kind of went through some of the Westside stuff. And then I came back and started doing some dynamic work. We started working on some, taking out the stretch shortening cycle with the box squats and, started using some accommodating resistance in this. And then next thing you know, I think it was like 9, 10, 12 weeks later, I ended up squatting, I think it was in, high 7s, low 8s, pretty easy. So it was something where I think the weight, like my strength, it got to a point, but the inability to generate force and drive against that bar just slowed down. And I think going back and doing some speed work really helped. So, the problem becomes how far do you push? And I think what we see is when people come out of that linear progression, they've maxed out their strength. And I think then adding in, and as I'm kind of going back and really looking at this whole kind of, template on a grand scheme of stuff in terms of an entire year or a multi-year or this. I mean, there's got to be a cycling between.
There has to be a cycling between the two. Yeah.
Pushing the rep maxes, really driving that, pushing the envelope, and then once I drive it, and then cutting it back, down. And then kind of cycling it, and that's really what I've found out. So, but I think that somebody coming out of a linear progression, if you don't maximize that linear progression, you've totally lost that adaptation. And you know what? It's easier for us to get people faster, but in terms of that linear progression, I think it's so
you got to write it out.
Yeah, you got to write it out.
And another thing, I mean, in terms of implementing that linear progression and where it's found its roots in CrossFit football, the assumption there too is that you're kind of doing athletic stuff outside of your training. And one thing, Ash doesn't do a lot of sprinting unless it's called for in the programming. Yeah. And even at that, there may be some slight modifications at Balboa just to accommodate for space size or space time and anything like that. So,
well, what sucks too, and this is where I get kind of stuck a little bit, is in terms of hits and feedback. If I were to program like, hey, we're going to squat today, we're going to go out and run, you're going to jump a little bit, and you're going to give me 1040s max effort, we're going to sprint, do this, I'll get 4 people will do it. Yeah. But yet if I have some barn burner kind of deal, so it's almost sometimes you got to program a little bit for what the masses want, which is what we do with CrossFit football. Whereas in Field Strong, fuck you. Yeah. This is what I want. If you're paying it, I'm giving you my best because I know where to take this thing. With the CrossFit football, we get the cafeteria CrossFitter that kind of jumps in and out, and I want to do this, and I'm hybriding this. But with Field Strong, it's people are in or out, and that's what I love about the Field Strong program, especially running into people at the seminar that are Field Strongers, because they give you the head nod, and they're like Field Strong. Yeah,
there's no question whether people are into it or not, because when they're not, they'll cancel. I mean, it's few and far between, but when people are not into it, and that's good, because it's the time and effort that it takes to program that is just, it's not going to be worth their while and worth your while if it's just half-assed.
So it's pretty awesome. But for the most part, we had a great experience. I definitely think that the German food is leaving a little bit lacking. I mean, the fact that they eat pork at every meal I like pork as much as everybody, but I can't eat that much pork. So,
as much as the next guy.
Yeah, no, it's the Germans. They love the pork. So they eat pork like we eat beef.
Yeah.
So, but everybody was great, man. The one thing though that's a little strange with Germany, it's extremely overcast. I mean, I think we had one kind of moderately sunny day. I don't know if I could live in the overcast that much, but everybody was super friendly and was great, other than the nightmare plane ride I had home.
How nightmare? Like the one I told you about on Virgin?
I had a 6:45 a.m. flight, so I got up.
Oh yeah, this is hunger related.
Well, no, I got up at 5:45, called a taxi, got the taxi there, got to the airport, an hour and a half ahead of time, only to find out that they had canceled my flight because there was a strike in Paris at what is it?
De Gaulle.
Yeah, de Gaulle, and they rerouted me through Frankfurt on Lufthansa, where I have 0 status. And they're like, here's your ticket, and I'm like, oh. And I was on that last seat by the bathroom, and there was probably 250 people over the age of 70 on the plane that must have had bladders like the size of my daughter's, because literally it was like a sea of old people, and they were literally just like hitting me every time in the shoulder. I had this old guy who was sitting across the aisle from me that kept fucking up his seatbelt. He kept standing up and bending over, and then his ass would hit me in the face.
Love
and I'm like
it.
ready to sock this old man right in his butt cheek, but I'm like, he's old, he doesn't know, you know, like they just. But it was literally like a marathon.
Awareness.
Oh, it was like a marathon of elderly people just sprinting up and down, like, I don't know, like what that drug is that controls the bladder, but they needed to get that.
Doesn't that just make you feel so alive? You're just like...
Oh, I couldn't get up.
Just basking in your youth.
And then I got home. And then I had a great Uber ride by a dude who was driving 45 to 52 miles an hour on the 405. And those of you guys listening that are from Southern California, there's two things you don't do on the 405. You don't use blinkers, because the minute you put on a blinker, and you don't drive under 70, because you'll get, like, people go crazy. And the dude did both of those.
You.
Yeah, they'll fucking shoot you, or they'll try to run you off. A dude in a truck literally went over and tried to put him into the wall as he cut him off, and the guy started screaming. I'm like, dude, you're driving 52 miles an hour on the 405. I'm going to die here. So we had that.
We are going to die.
I was ready to like punch him in the face and just take the car, but it's a Prius. So the best is like I call the Uber guy and he pulls up in a Prius. I'm like, I'm going to die in a fucking Prius. This is my fate.
It's about the size your coffin would be.
I'm like, great, nothing I have to do. The other problem is I'm in the front seat. My knees are up so high that, like, if the car we got rear-ended, they would have broken my shins.
Your femur goes straight through your torso.
It would have fucking killed me. So
amazing.
I had that, but
other than that, how was the trip?
It was a great trip. Other than that fucking airplane ride.
Tex, how was your flight home?
Flight home, it was rushed. So, I mean, it was a last-minute flight, so I was sitting in the middle the whole way, and then I was literally sprinting to a gate. I don't know what the airport is like in London, but you got to take a freaking bus to get off the plane. You got to take a bus to get on the plane. So it was just sprinting across all this airport, and then I had to land in BWI because I couldn't get a DC. So that's about a 2-hour bus metro tacked onto it. But I mean, trip was a great time. It was worth it.
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, like it reminds me of one time me and my friend Bo Colombo went on my first road trip. We drove down to Texas for a weekend, and he's like, all you got to do is pretend like you're never going to make it. You're just going to be driving forever. And once you accept that fate, you'll be there in no time. And that's kind of the way I take the international trips or any trip. Like, you never know, because just accept that this is going to be a multi-day endeavor, and then you just kind of...
You're pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
So it was 13 hours from Frankfurt to LA. And I remember I watched two movies, like the only two movies I wanted to watch, which were like RoboCop and Blended with Adam Sandler, which was a terrible movie.
Yeah, you might want to do that to yourself.
Yeah, I watched it. It was RoboCop, which I was so excited about. I forgot.
The original.
Yeah, the original.
I was going to ask you, was it the new one or the...
Oh, no. I would never watch the new one.
Yeah, but the guy from that...
The new one's not bad, dude. The new one's...
Well, yeah, I mean, as Luke said, so the bad guy is Red from that 70s show, so the whole time you're watching, you're like, this is so weird.
RoboCop.
Yeah.
Ass.
Dumbass. So I'm watching RoboCop, which I was excited, and then there's an Adam Sandler movie. I'm like, okay, he's usually pretty good, and I watch it, completely terrible. And I look at my watch, thinking, oh yeah, like I should be halfway there, and it was still like 8 hours and 50 minutes till I landed.
Oh my god.
So I watched two movies. And I was rationing myself on my Foodco MRE, and I still had 8 hours and 50 minutes. And at that point, I remember being like, I just hope the plane crashes.
Oh, man.
And then the old man whose butt just kept hitting me in the face. So I got that going for me.
Sounds like a good time. I'm sorry I missed that, guys.
Yeah, rock and roll.
So Luke, what happened to you this weekend? You missed an epic adventure. What'd you make up for it?
Let's see, what did I do? I literally just pouted all fucking day Thursday.
Are you asking him because you know what he did?
No, Luke legitimately pouted. Like,
That's
he was like when you saw
Thursday.
those ribeyes, those tomahawks, were you like, oh god?
Yeah, I didn't say
bullshit.
Fuck you guys, because that's what I wanted to say on all social media platforms.
There's a brand new TV screen.
Oh,
that
we'll get
states
to that.
otherwise.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, Luke apparently did some retail therapy.
So Thursday just pouted. I was a terrible companion to my girlfriend. Just like, oh, cook dinner tonight. Like, I just like a fucking child. But because I had spent like 2 hours with the fucking cops putting in this police report, I had like, I'm not a fucking detective, but God, I mean, everything was caught on camera at the gas station. Just like, that, tap into the satellites, zoom in on the vehicle, let's go find this fucking guy.
I'm not
that complicated.
I'm only going to interject for 2 seconds. I listened to a podcast where someone actually did hunt down the person who stole their stuff and confronted them at a Domino's. The person stole their identity, and this was like a 2-month thing. I'll send you the podcast. You'll get inspired.
How did it end?
Great.
They killed him. It's a good one.
Down the road.
3 Domino's for life.
I always wonder that.
Anyway,
like,
sorry to interrupt.
Like, what happens like if you catch the person that wronged you? Could you like, is it like, hey, you fucking wronged me, and now I'm gonna like fucking drive you out to the desert or something?
Vigilante justice.
Vigilante justice. That's what I was seeking. Anyways, it was just frustrating because you see everything fucking go down, and like. So then Friday woke up, trained a little bit, and then Saturday I think. Just did like yard work and chores. It was good, actually, to be honest with you. I slept quite a bit this weekend, where I know if I traveled there'd be like no sleep and the travel flu and everything going on. So it's nice to kind of just recharge the batteries a little bit. But let's cut to brass tacks, okay? Watched some football Sunday. Went to a little pub down the street from me that used to be called Bikini Bar. Now, by that name,
on Newport Boulevard?
Yeah, so now it's rebranded, new ownership, Turner's Pub 33. Okay?
But do they still have chicks in bikinis?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
Which is nice.
So
we
they
walk
haven't
in there,
rebranded it.
Walk in there, and the first thing you see is
It's Callie Hinsman.
Working.
Callie's working.
Yeah.
I'm like, can you just leave me alone?
And I'm like, what is this? I thought it was a bikini bar. She's in a one piece.
One piece with
the
Reebok.
t-shirt on.
Yeah,
Listen,
one piece with Reebok shorts on.
I'm a modest lady.
So then Callie gets fired, and then there's a big sign that says TV giveaway, and I go right up to the bartender. I'm like, hey, what's the TV giveaway? And we're there for the evening game, the 5:30 game, right? Was that time on Sunday? But
was that the Broncos game?
Yeah. So they said after the Broncos game, we're going to do a drawing for a TV. I'm like, well, how do you enter the drawing? She's like, well, if you buy Jell-O shots, you get a raffle ticket. And I'm like, okay. So I just kind of look around, and there's like 9 people in the freaking bar, and I rolled in with 9 people because the buddy of ours, friend, was trying to get a job there, and the owner's like, well, let's see what kind of network you have. Bring some friends in. So we all kind of just rallied up and rode our bikes down there. And I was a little worried because I do not like getting canned on Sundays. But the Jell-O shots were super, super weak, and we ordered like 25 of them. And sure enough, they go through like 10 spin the wheel raffles where you win like a fucking koozie. And the final drawing goes, and I fucking won the TV. So it's a 32-inch flat screen LCD JVC display that I plugged in and using as my monitor.
Questionable clarity.
Yeah. What? This is so clear.
I think it looks really nice.
Kelly, I can see into your soul.
Well, I just like that
TV
it's a
for
little
that,
bit
though.
smaller than my TV.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to outdo you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
It's in our
But
contract.
yeah,
I knew you could do it, Luke.
I knew I could do it. And so the karma, I guess, there's an example of karma. Hopefully they fucking find this guy that stole my shit, and vigilante justice can
ensue.
go down, yeah. But I think, Eddie, did you just join up?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Beautiful. Our man Eddie jumped on. Eddie is Luke. You got John, Callie, Tex, and Denny, who you met yesterday, are on the line. So, but thanks for joining us, man. I know you're a little late, but I'm glad to have you on.
Sorry about that. I had to watch girls shake their boobies.
Oh, well, acceptable.
That's a pretty good excuse, man.
I've been hosting Playboy TV, and it's been
I was
hard.
going to say, YouTube videos don't count, Eddie.
Hosting by Playboy TV, you actually mean like Playboy TV, or like you hiding in your closet with pretending your mom doesn't kick in the door?
Well, my wife is the one that forces me to do it because it pays a lot, and she's like, "You get there and make those girls shake their titties." But yeah, it's Playboy's morning show on the on Playboy TV. I don't know who has it, who watches it. They say there's 850 million subscribers, and I put a tweet out today saying, "Hey, if you're watching me, tell me," and no one responded. So I don't.
That's a little early for boob.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm sure there's a lot of people that get up first thing in the morning, 7 o'clock, throw on Playboy TV, watch Eddie Ifft. I mean,
maybe go to work, maybe not.
Maybe not. Sit there, try to weasel the belt off your neck.
I think that might be the problem with their model. Like, people go to Playboy TV and then they turn it on and they see me. That could be the lack of listeners.
Well, I mean, maybe they're trying to make it funny. I mean, obviously, I would hope you're a little funnier than some of the girls.
No, they're actually really funny, but I'm not allowed to make fun of them for the way they're funny.
So then what do you do?
I sit there and just don't say anything. I can't be myself.
So they're like unintentionally funny.
They're hysterical. Probably I secretly record their conversations because
Yes.
the funniest conversations I've ever heard. About like I hope they don't make me take my panties off because my little friend came this month.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what my conversations consist of so I'm putting that belt around my neck.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Did you get to meet Hef?
No, I've been to the mansion before though, but I've never seen him. I think they prop him up. I think he's dead. It's kind of like a taxidermy.
You're right.
Well, no. So in my other life, I was a professional athlete and got to do much cooler stuff than talking on podcasts. And we used to go to the Playboy Mansion for movie night, and I actually met Hef. The only weird one was he was totally petrified to shake my hand and wouldn't shake hands because he thought I was going to like fucking snap his hand off. And I'm like,
he has prostate hands.
He's old. I mean, he's fucking like he went to high school with Jesus. I mean, I think Moses was his fucking student counselor. Like, he's fucking old. And I mean, he's fucking old. And
was he wearing the freaking silk robe, smoking a pipe?
Well, he rocks a silk robe. I mean, it's kind of like I just thought it's like once you hit over the age of 80, you just rock jammies all the time. So it's not like he's just rolling jammies.
80.
And
now.
Yeah, I think now he's like 90 something. So he was in his 80s when I met him.
Yeah,
I think. What's a slipper situation?
I'm trying to remember if he was rocking slippers. I don't know. I was just too busy staring at the girls, but I definitely remember him in like kind of silk PJs, and I was like, "Oh, look, your great great grandfather's in his jammies."
I think he died 20 years ago.
Weekend at Bernie's.
Totally.
That's just a doll. They stuffed him. That's why he couldn't shake your hand.
Yeah. I mean, how great it'd be if I go to shake it and fucking come in there for the deal and just snapped him at the wrist, and he's like, like arm comes off, and they're like, no! And all of a sudden, like, the lights come on, like the fucking movie magic guys pop out of the back. I mean, it's it's a big deal.
Weekend at Hef's.
Yeah. We actually had a good time there. I mean, they always had, like, nice food. I mean, they were always, like...
Yeah, I'm sure the food was...
like they put out a cool spread. I mean, young chicks, booze, it was a good time. Like,
the landscape was...
Yeah, it was amazing.
It sounds like barbecues at your house, John.
Yeah.
So just... a bunch of big lumpy dudes.
Yeah, drinking beer and eating barbecue, but no, it was a good time. So
a lot of tits too, just man tits.
Yeah, it's I don't think a set of real boobs has been at the mansion since like the '60s, maybe.
No, they actually are very anti-fake boobs. Like when I was there one day, I probably shouldn't be telling all this stuff, but when I was there one day, then they were bringing the models in. They were like, this one girl came in that it looked like hers were inflated to like 600 psi or something, and I thought that they were going to explode. Like I thought if she bumps into something sharp, we're all going to die. And they said afterwards, they're like, she can't come back. We can't have her with those. That's terrible. And they were very critical of that. They like the real ones.
Yeah, they like, well, what they like is they like the fake ones that could pass for real. They just don't want the one. They don't want the one where the girl nods off and her like chin goes down and she can use them like an airport or like an airplane pillow.
Yeah, because there were a lot of them, but not that many. I was surprised. A lot more natural. But these girls, I don't know. I don't want to get into it. I'll get in trouble.
Nice. Well, let's talk about something good. So, Eddie, how did you get involved in this CrossFit thing? How'd you get in, like, through training and working with Armin and Scott and those guys? Well,
funny enough, I'm the one that started the WODcast podcast. I've been doing CrossFit for, I don't know, about 6 years or something now, maybe 5, 6 years. And I was introduced to it years ago through, like, the Navy SEAL website. And it wasn't SEAL Fit. It was pretty much like I dug around on the Internet, or even before the Internet, pre-Internet, and was trying to find out workouts.
What do you mean?
I don't get it.
Was it like Jim Jones kind of deal?
No, do you know LexisNexis?
Oh, you Alta Vista'd it.
Yeah.
Before the Internet was the Internet, I was on the Internet.
So you were on message boards then?
No, even before message boards. There used to
Or
be
bulletin boards?
legal students called LexisNexis, and it was basically pre-Internet where you could look up magazines and articles, like any articles that were written that would be in a library. You could kind of find through this database on your computer. And my sister had it because she was in law school, and I would go up and dig up all this, try to find all this shit on Navy SEAL workouts, because I was like, those guys look like they're in good shape. And I had run track in college, and when I got out of college, I was trying to stay in shape. And so I found these weird, crazy Navy SEAL workouts, and it led me kind of down the road to SEAL Fit, and I started doing SEAL Fit. Whenever they wouldn't post a workout on SEAL Fit, they would say, go to CrossFit main site. And so forever I ignored that. I was like, oh, it looks like a day off for me. And then I saw CrossFit main site, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And started doing it on my own, horribly. And one day, Kenny Kane, who you know, John, was opening for me on the road in Indiana. And I was going out and doing these weird workouts, and Kenny was like, you need to stop. He's like, we need to get you into the gym. And I said, what? He's like, there's gyms for this. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, there's CrossFit gyms. He's like, I'll take you to one. And so he took me to this little place, and I've been going ever since.
Wow.
You find it's hard traveling for work and still getting training in?
Yeah, it's almost impossible, but I used to drink a lot, and so I would go do a comedy show, just get shit-faced, wake up in the afternoon, get some food, and start drinking and do my show again. So now before I go, I don't drink and don't party much anymore, so I'll go, I got to find my gym, I got to find the Whole Foods in the town, I got to rent a car so I can get to the gym, or I put it out sometimes on the podcast. I'll go, I'm going to be in Kansas City. If you got a CrossFit gym, I want to come by, and they'll sometimes pick me up or come to my show. So that's been really great with, like, I'm not one of those community guys. I'm not a very community-oriented guy, but they've been really good about that, where people go, hey, we'll bring you to our gym, or come by our gym, or we'll pick you up. And so I just make sure, I don't do anything during the day when I'm on the road. I'm stuck. So it's like I can sit in the hotel room or go to the gym. So
do you find, like, when people pick you up, they, like, expect you to be funny?
Yeah, and it's horrible.
So when I played in Kansas City, Paul Rudd was a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. He used to come to the games, and a bunch of the guys knew him, and he used to hang out and drink beers with us in the parking lot. And, I mean, the brother from Clueless is how I always remembered him. Everybody else wanted to remember him as, from Anchorman, but I was like, no, this is the brother from Clueless. So we would sit around and drink beers, and guys would, like, expect him to be funny or want to, like, trade lines, and, like, he was kind of nervous at first because he's like, dude, these big guys are going to fucking kill me. I'm going to have to do these Anchorman lines.
Oh, God.
And finally I looked at him, and I was like, you don't have to, you're not here to entertain us, and these fuckers aren't funny. And he's like, thank you. He's like, man, he goes, it's so rough. He goes, but the guy that has it the worst is Will Ferrell. Wherever he goes, people, like, try to smart ass him and want him to be funny, and he just fucking stone faces them. And, like, he's like, it's like one of those things where he just, like, smart asses them until they just go away. And
do you guys remember that skit from SNL that Chris Foley used to do, where it was just like
Chris Farley,
where he's like, remember when?
Yeah, that's what. Seriously, Chris fucking Bober, who played for us, would do that shit, and I'd be looking at it, I'd be like, seriously, man, you're fucking, not only are you making a fool of yourself, but you're killing the fucking movie from me because you're butchering these lines. Go home, memorize them.
So awesome.
But all I ever wanted to hear was, I was like, I don't want you to trade lines. I just want to hear some of the backstory, and the one I liked was their whole deal on Anchorman was they were trying to rewrite the lines to get Will Ferrell to break during character. And so they would go home and like sit with the writers and like secretly go out and then try to just drop new comedy on them. And they were like, Will Ferrell was never they were never able to get him to break. And the whole like 60% of the time it works every time. He goes, literally, I came up with that. And the take that you see in the movie was the very first take. And he looks over, he's like, that makes no sense. And he goes, that was our home run deal. So I was just more excited about that, whereas the dipshits I played with were trying to get him to like, okay, you be this guy, and I'll be like, oh, you're fucking killing me. Oh my God,
that's horrendous.
But he was a cool cat, and he had a good sense of humor about it. It was probably like because there was a bunch of 300-pound offensive linemen that he's like, dude, these guys might fucking kill me. So that sucks.
Yeah,
okay.
It's weird. My wife will tell you, like, she'll say, oh yeah, he's not funny, because when I was younger, I was the guy I was always on. And then once I started performing a lot, and it got to the point where when I was in New York, I was doing 7 shows a night every night. And I remember there was a year where I don't think I even took off on Christmas night. You know, I did a show every night. And it just got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm funny on stage, and then I'll let it rest while I'm off stage. But you get to places where people look at you like, are you going to be funny? And you feel obligated to turn it on. And I had a girl one time at a bar say to me, she goes, I know comedians and you're not funny. And I went,
oh my God.
I go, I know a lot of girls and you're not pretty.
Yeah.
See, that's what they want. It's like the.
That's what they want.
Sure, no. It's like one of my favorite things to do, and I haven't been in a long time, was to go to hear stand up, and I remember going to the Comedy and Magic Club and different things. And my favorite is the guy that's had 6 or 7 drinks who wants to smart ass the comic. And I'm like, I wait for those guys because I'm like, you realize these guys are professionals and they're used to dealing with drunk assholes. So then they just fucking unleash and oh my God, dude, I was at one of them and some drunk asshole wants to start trying to get into it, and the dude just obliterated to the point where like I thought the guy was going to jump up on stage, security had to come taking him out, and I'm like, dude, what do you think, you're going to smart ass somebody that does this for a living? But Eddie, I got to disagree.
I've had guns pointed at me. I've been chased off stage. And it happens less frequently the longer I've been doing it, but I've had some crazy shit, wrestling guys on stage, and I used to threaten guys all the time, but I just tell them now, I'm like, look, if I was a black belt in jiu-jitsu and you wanted to fight me, I'd warn you. I'd tell you, hey, I'm about to kick the shit out of you, and I'm trained to do this. It's kind of the same thing with comedy. It's like, I'm trained to do this, and I'm going to make you look like an idiot. Are you ready? You sure you want to go? And then it's like, all right, here it goes. And they usually, sometimes, I don't want to hurt their feelings, but if they're ruining the show for other people, then I'm like, you're done. It's time to ruin your life.
Dude, I was telling these guys a story about when I was trying to lead the CrossFit Games, and I came across you, and you were kind of like wandering, and like I, wasn't sure if you were about to get run down or not. And I see you, all of a sudden your eyes light up because you recognize a friendly face, and I'm like, what's happening? And then the barbell shrug dudes rolled up, and I was like, WODcast Podcast, barbell shrug. And then the best is, out of nowhere, like, Eddie just launches into it. I'm like, dude, it's just like, at least when you're around me, every time you're, like, always launching into a bit, and you're like, I know, it's just old practice. But, no, it's pretty funny. So that's why I was like, man, we got to get Eddie on. He's a funny motherfucker. So he's got some good stuff.
Barbell Shrug guys, because I don't know if I always make fun of their show on our show.
Well, I didn't know that, so there was probably a little animosity there.
And then I ran into them, and I really didn't know who they were. And I don't pay too much attention to that. I just knew, like, I think we were the first podcast because I've been doing a podcast talking shit for years, and it's on we've been on iTunes, and it's like a big show, like hundreds of thousands of listeners. And then I started this WODcast thing out of like, because I couldn't talk about CrossFit on my podcast. People would have been like, you're a douchebag.
Yeah.
And, so I just never did it, but I wanted to, and Kenny and I would always have these phone conversations. So I called Kenny, and I was like, come over, and I found Armin on the internet. I thought he was kind of funny because his post that he was doing as a naked CrossFitter. So I was like, yeah, let's do this thing. We'll see how it goes. And people liked it, so we started doing it. And then I saw Barbell Shrug started, and they were very active. And so I just thought, I didn't know who they were or what they did. And they're all really nice guys. I met them, and they seemed like great guys when I met them. But I just kept making fun of them, like, that other boring about CrossFit. And then when I met them, they're like, hey, we're the Barbell Shrug guys. And I was like, hey, I feel really shitty right now.
You're like, good thing Wellborn's here, because if this thing gets ugly, he's my guy. You're like, Wellborn, you got my back if this goes down. I'm like, yeah, don't worry, I got you.
Yeah, we have them on our show. They're super nice. I would venture to say that they're probably 25% more wholesome than we are. So.
Yeah, and way more wholesome than me. Yeah.
Yeah, which makes them roughly 75% more wholesome.
Yeah, well, they're birds of the feather. That's what Callie's trying to say.
I didn't. To be honest, I've never really listened to their show, but in fact, they're super nice guys. One time, a long time ago, they contacted me and tried to have me do a show at a CrossFit event. They wanted me to come, which I didn't at the time. I thought it was a bad idea. I was like, I don't want to go do stand up to like meat-headed CrossFitters. It's not going to work. And they wanted me to come do an event, and then I sent them to my agent. My agent, I guess, like made it impossible. And so I recently did one though at CrossFit LA. I did a show in the gym, and I thought this is going to be a nightmare. And me and Lachlan Patterson, who just finished second in Last Comic Standing, went and did it. And I'm like, this is never going to work. Never. And Lachlan went up and opened for me and crushed it. And I was like, oh no, now I'm going to bomb, because I know all the inside jokes and everything, and they're just not going to, they're going to be like, oh, he's just one of us. And it ended up going really well, but I because I was able to make fun of Glassman, and easy enough.
Yeah, I was going to say, what did you talk about?
I would never put where anybody could record it.
That's good. That's good stuff.
Did you walk around? You're like, oh, you got a cell phone? Well, let me see that. You stomp on it. You're like, oh.
I made a crack about Glassman, just a joke, at when we were recording the WODcast at the games, and two of the Kill Cliff guys who were like Navy SEALs were like, delete it.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, it's a joke, my God.
You're lucky you just didn't get
I'm surprised some Navy SEAL didn't shoot you from like 1,000 meters away. All of a sudden it's like, you're like sitting there, you're like, and then just like brain clouds. You're like, yep.
Like grassy knoll style.
Yeah, come on, like the bullet curved. Like in, what was that movie? Wanted? Oh, jeez.
It was a little scary like that. Like, like I get calls from like people at headquarters every once in a while, like just wanting to talk, and I'm like, you guys are watching me, aren't you?
Yeah.
Is their name Russell?
He talks to Armin all the time. Those guys. I wouldn't accept him on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, Armin got into a little bit of hot water with the whole naked CrossFitter thing, and I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, he rolls up on me, or maybe it was 3 years ago at the games. He's like, "Hey, do you want to be on our podcast?" And he was like looking around. I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Sounds like it gets on." And then all of a sudden, I see him bolt, and I see like 4 security guards chasing him, and I'm like, I was like, "You remember that?" Like, see him, he's like literally. Hands tied behind his back. They were like carrying him out as he was like all mangled.
Why?
And they like shorts. What's that?
He was like in jeans.
Yeah, jean shorts. And he had on a CrossFit Union shirt because he was banned.
We were in the Sick Fit booth at the games, and all of a sudden these two guys in like 2 security guards in like black suits walk in with one of Dale Sayers.
Dale Saran.
Yeah. Armin Amirian in here. And we were like, yeah, and he's like, we need to talk to you, Armin. Could you please step outside? And Armin goes outside, and then and Kenny and I are looking at each other laughing. And all of a sudden, like 5 minutes later, Dale walks in and he goes, Armin will no longer be attending the CrossFit Games, and if we find him back on the premises, he will be escorted out. He's persona non gratis. And we were like, what the fuck? So they took him out, and he said they just said, you're not allowed to be here. He left, and I've always tried to stay on the fringe. Like, I just have never wanted to be like part of it, because once you're part of it, you can't make fun of it. So I enjoy CrossFit. I like doing it, except for my injuries. But I always like to stay on the fringe of it too, so that I can keep an honest look and be as cynical as I am. But one day I think they're going to put a bullet in my head.
So let's go back to these injuries.
He's bringing balance
so
to the force.
what? Yeah, you got to have. I mean, it's like in anything. Like you got to have somebody out there that's like kind of like not taking it too seriously, because I mean we travel almost every single weekend all over the world to go teach this stuff, and we are on the ground and for our nutrition gig. We go through it, this is what you do, and we always end it with and the final rule of this thing is
golden rule.
Don't be weird. And it's like this whole deal, and I get into it, and like everybody looks, and they kind of like real pause.
They think it's going to be something like really nutrition related.
Yeah.
Like seriously, just don't be fucking weirdos.
And then it's kind of a pivotal point, like at the end of the day, don't be weird. If you feel yourself getting weird, take a large step back and then reevaluate. If you find yourself strategically counting out your almonds every day before you go, or I have
not
I gotta
having
have
wedding
this.
cake on your wedding.
Yeah, it's like, or like you go out and like your buddy sits down, you haven't seen in 10 years, like, hey, let's get a beer, and you're like, yeah, I can't get a beer. I'm in the middle of this 7-month paleo challenge, and I'm like, don't be weird. If you guys, if you guys want to have some beers, if you want to go out, you want to have a taco, don't tell me that corn is not paleo, because, I guarantee caveman would have eaten tacos.
Because
you like tacos.
Amazing.
Yeah, because tacos are fucking great. So, I go through this whole thing about don't be weird, and it's amazing to see people, because they're like so into it. As soon as you say it, they like sit back, and you can see this like light go on, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm like, life's about balance. Like if you find yourself going down that dark road, pull yourself back, or tell somebody, I'm going down the dark road and pull me back because I'm going to need some help. I'm going too far down the rabbit hole.
I always tell people, they go, are you paleo? I go, about 80%, I have fun.
Yeah.
I'm not going to turn down, really good food sometime. I'm not going to be the guy at the table that's suffering. I'm going to, have some fun. So I try to, like, keep all healthy food in my house and stuff, but, every once in a while I go out for dinner and I have a good time, and I drink a beer, when I want one, and I never really hold back, or, I'm just kind of smart about it. And we just built a new house, and it's been like a crazy month, and I've kind of been bad to my diet and bad to my exercise for the month, and I'm like, I'm not beating myself up over it. I'm just like, all right, I got to get back into it once.
Well, I mean, you also have to know your audience a little bit. I mean, I was in Germany a couple days ago, and if I get up in front of a room full of Europeans and Germans and start telling them that, eating bread and, is the devil, and, like, I'm there during Oktoberfest, and me being like, yeah, wheat, rye, barley, gluten, beer. I mean, come on, dude, I'm going to instantly lose credibility. When I told those guys, I was like, I know you guys like bread. I know you guys drink beer. Like, I wouldn't stand up here and tell you to not have it, but just know that, you're not going to get a great performance gain out of going out and drinking, 27 40-ounce mugs of beer at Oktoberfest.
Depends what kind of performance, really.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's, hopefully, gym and bedroom. But at the same rate, like, you got to have balance.
John, you can tell them. You can say, hey, you don't need bread in your diet, but just don't say no Jews. Don't say that to them.
Is that still a touchy subject?
What the Jews or juice?
Too soon.
I said juice. No.
Oh.
Juice.
Yeah, it's usually not good to make any kind of anti-Semitic comments in Germany. I think they actually arrest you for that.
I've done shows in Germany, and that was the one thing. They're like, the Nazi jokes aren't going to go over well.
Yeah, they're real touchy about that stuff.
Yeah. I had a
you
friend,
can almost say they're Nazis about it.
I had a friend go to jail there for calling a policeman a Nazi.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, no, it's a big problem, and I know, like, any type of, like, wearing of anything that, like, looks like, might be anti-Semitic or kind of relates back to it is, like, instant, no questions asked, you're in jail. Tex and I were trying to walk to find something to eat and try to get a cab because we couldn't get a cab, and we walked into this little pizza joint, and I look over, and there's this, like, pretty big dude, shaved head, pretty aggressive looking, and he's wearing a jacket that's got a big Viking on it, and it was something like willpower or something, and Tex is kind of asking him, like, well, usually in the States, if somebody has got a lot of Viking stuff, it's usually some form of, like, white supremacy stuff, and I'm like, but
Whoa. Here
in Germany, who knows? But for the real ride, I'm not gonna go over and say anything to the dude,
Wow.
So you got to just be aware of your surroundings and be happy, smile, and just be positive.
Eddie, do you stay up and up on, like, the competitions? I know you said you're at the games, and do you follow the grid at all? That new broadcast one?
We talk about grid on the show a lot. I'm supportive of it in the fact that, like, to see, I don't know, I don't like a large central government, if you know what I mean, and I kind of like to see it fractioning off and all this different stuff, and anything that can promote people getting healthier and working out more is great. But I don't know. I don't know about when you start a sport. I don't think you go like, hey, we're going to start a sport, and bam, we're going to be in Madison Square Garden next week.
Yeah.
I kind of think you start off, in a field somewhere and gradually go up. I mean, but I'm all for it, and if it works and everything, I hope it works.
Well, I mean, that's kind of his deal. I mean, like with comics, like, isn't that how you kind of hone your craft? Isn't that like you go on the road, you kind of do, like six drunk guys in a bar, and you're sitting there dropping like new material on them, and you kind of like cut your teeth, and then by the time you get, to the big time and get to host the morning show on the Playboy channel, you're pretty much
you made it.
You've made it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next thing you know, your weekend at Hef's.
Yeah, it's a long process of doing a lot of free shit. Like, that's why when everybody talks about these CrossFitters not making any money, I'm like, I didn't make any money in stand-up for probably 3 years before I ever got paid. Where I just did open mics every single night, and that's kind of when you want to go down that road. It's, as an athlete, how often, how long did you play football before you got paid for football? So right. I love when people are like, these aren't making any money. It's like, well, of course they're not.
And you chose fucking exercise as your primary means of income.
For me, when I was in college, I had a scholarship, and they worked us like we were slaves. Mm-hmm. We were, my scholarship check was $740 a month. So my parents kicked me a couple $100 extra, so I had $1,000 a month. My rent was $475, and we lived so far below the poverty line, like welfare, and we couldn't even see the poverty line. So and that's what happens. And you've seen the universities make like hundreds of millions of dollars off these deal, and we were like so broke. Guys are eating top ramen and drinking water, trying to do anything they can to survive. And but it's part of the deal. You cut your teeth, you get a free education, and then I got a chance to go play in the NFL and got paid a little bit better.
Luke and I were watching some of the grid, watching Playtech yesterday, I guess it was. One thing that I noticed in direct contrast to like CrossFit Games, just because there's nothing else as big as it quite out there yet, but is that these athletes are more than fully clothed. And that is.
I was like, where are the abs? There's sleeves.
I
think they have to wear uniforms.
I wonder why they took that route, though. Yeah, they do, and it's like everything.
Well, it's probably so you could follow people. So
sure.
like there was a number you could follow. Can you imagine what the NFL would look like?
That's a huge part of CrossFit. Is just
it's a massive part of CrossFit.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's one way or the other. I'm not saying I prefer one over the other. I still think it's interesting to watch, but I just thought what a direct contrast. Is like everything is sexified, like in terms of wearing
it to win it.
As little clothing as possible.
And to throw some props out there for Playtech. So Steve Playtech's one of our hosts, Eddie, on the show, and his time's been pretty thin since he's a full-time professor, and he's participating as a grid athlete.
Yeah.
But their semifinal match, they have their final match tonight.
Oh, I thought. Which team's he on?
He's on the Miami Surge.
Okay. And is that against New York?
I think it's got to be because I'm not sure, to be honest with you, but so he wanted to just want to give him a shout out, and I guess his match is tonight at 5, and you can watch it live on the MPGL.com, but I guess they're rebroadcasting this match on NBC next week.
Oh, wow.
That's if it doesn't go bankrupt this afternoon.
That's also true.
Right.
Well, they're selling raffle tickets, and I heard a couple of the guys' moms are having a bake sale. So, when you go there, buy a couple extra paleo cookies, maybe buy a raffle ticket, who knows, get a free balloon. Maybe Eddie Ift's going to do some stand-up comedy in terms of having like a fundraiser. Who knows?
They won't go bankrupt. Anthos came in and bailed them out, I'm pretty sure.
Well, they've made it.
Nah, I think, I don't necessarily know if Anthos would want to get back into that after, what happened last time, but you never know. The guys could always be lurking.
Well, they did. They had an influx of capital that had to come in because they did go, I'm pretty sure they went bankrupt, and then another investor came in and kind of took over. So,
I know they were looking for fundraisers, and I know they were trying to have a round of fundraising. I don't know if it was raised in-house or what. I mean, I heard, some rumors about who was in it, but I don't really know, and they didn't really come out with it. And it was kind of a weird deal we saw on Facebook that I guess like one of their key investors pulled out, and they needed some dough, and hopefully they can keep riding it out and get to a position.
Is all that anonymous? Like, you can't find that information?
Well, it's not a publicly traded company, so
so
people can play it. And the other thing I always think too is, if people are out there investing and doing things, they might not really want to be like massively publicizing it because you don't want the Eye of Saruman to get on you.
Yeah.
Eye
of Sauron.
Sauron.
Well, it's when people say, "Oh, it's a bad investment" or whatever. It's like, what's art? It's not a bad investment if you love it and you're into it.
Yeah.
And you want to be a part of something. It's you're buying your way in, and that's what so many people invest in films that never make money and all kinds of stuff. So it's just a way to be a part of something, and hopefully, even if Grid doesn't make it, it might be the start of something else that does.
Yeah.
But it's good to get these athletes getting paid, and if you're going to devote your life to exercise, might as well make some money doing it. And
well, if usually I thought when somebody gave a large amount of money to fund a movie, like part of the deal was I want to be in the movie. So like I could see if I like donate and be like, well, I want to start. If you want me to give you a couple $1,000,000, I want to start.
Well, maybe
that's how it goes.
Maybe the investor will get to be on Andrea Egger's Instagram page.
I am sure it will.
Is she going to be smiling?
Guarantee.
With thumbs up?
Is that her go-to? Just double middies.
Yeah. That's why she has 475,000 Instagram followers and you only have 12.
Well, you
Listen, I created 12 accounts to follow myself.
You have to follow it with a proverb.
You have to what?
You have to follow it with a proverb.
Oh God! You've got to be kidding me.
So I never could figure out like here's me in my underwear, but here's a proverb, so therefore it's okay.
Here's my ass eating my underwear.
Yeah, because my ass is hungry and these underwear are small. So, but here's a proverb.
Here's me being as narcissistic as possible.
Oh my God.
Sorry, Anthony.
Here's like a big stack of hundreds, and you're like, only what is it? Easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than a rich man to go to heaven. But here's all my hundreds.
Dude, do you think there's just 400,000 people following her ironically, and not because they actually dig her?
No, they're just hoping like a nip slip. Or
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think she's got a lot of like the Christians that love what she speaks about. And I think there's also probably a lot of horny dudes. And then there's a lot of girls that want to be like her, and then there's the
crossover.
And then there's people like Eddie that just want to use it as material.
I was just gonna say, then there's the ironics.
And then there's the smart people.
It's it's like a Kardashian kind of thing. It's why do people watch the Kardashians? And
does anybody watch that show?
I took I listened to one thing in college, I think once, and it was in a psychology class where the professor told us that if you took an orange and put it on TV every day for a month, like the fruit, an orange, and then rolled it down the street, after that month, people on the street would be going, look, that's that orange. That's that orange. And, if you're going to put yourself up in front of people enough and just self-promote and promote and promote and promote, eventually people are going to be like, who is this? What are they doing? Why are they doing this? I'm so interested. I can't wait. I need to know. And that's what, the internet has become. It's like everybody's just trying to make themselves famous by...
And honestly, we are those people as well.
No, I don't think so.
Yes, we are.
No,
that's why we're not as successful as
Andrea. I think we just want to put out a good product and don't really care about hey, here's a picture of my junk in spandex with a proverb. I mean, that's.
And why have you been asking for all those pictures from me?
Why have you been sending me all those pictures?
I've been in the entertainment business for 19 years, and I can tell you honestly, I have never in those 19 years seen people more narcissistic than CrossFitters.
Oh, totally.
No shit.
Way more than anything else. I mean, the closest thing I can say are pageant girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like stand-up comedians who make a living doing comedy and aren't 1/100th of what a CrossFitter is about self-promotion and putting themselves up on Instagram and Twitter and all this stuff and posting videos of themselves. There was something about the CrossFit world and the use of like social media and YouTube that was beyond. It was like a group of people found this place where they were like, I need to be seen. People need to see me. And I've never seen a group so active.
Isn't that so crazy? What is it? Is it like the training that makes people?
No. I think it's like I think it's frenzy. So I think it's like this kind of like herd mentality. Like if this person's doing it, then I'm going to try to do it. Yeah, and it's kind of like if all of a sudden, one person starts running. Like if you're in a group of people and one person starts running, other people will start moving away. Like, where are we running? And I think it's just a lot of people. Like when they get into the CrossFit stuff, there's like certain things. Like
it's so
instantly,
overwhelming.
Instantly you get in, you start wearing board shorts, nanos. You end up with skins. It's just like a progression. And I think like once all that stuff happens, and then people get in shape and they kind of like flow into it, there becomes this idea that like now I have to publicize it, and with the fever of a television evangelist, and then they just got to broadcast it out there, and it's it's pretty overwhelming, and with that becomes pretty high maintenance, Eddie, and you probably know the same stuff. I told somebody once, I'm like, I played with Tom Brady, and he wasn't as high maintenance as some of these CrossFitters I've met.
Yeah, not even close. I mean, I've been with the worst, and I've opened for some massive names, like traveled with them on the road where they're rider, and the way they act would never be anything like these And it's funny because I bring the CrossFitters over to my house, and we have a lot of the top CrossFitters over to do the WODcast. And the night before, I have people like Brad Garrett from Everybody Loves Raymond, or Ty Pennington from Extreme Home Makeover, people who are really famous, really famous, and they don't come over with the attitude that the CrossFitters come over with. And I athletes, and I got a father-in-law who's a former pro football player too. Nothing like these CrossFitters.
Well, me as well. I rolled over and we had a great time, dude. I was like, great. We could sit here on the couch and slam kill cliffs.
But when we, especially, and this is gonna sound, but like more the women than the men. The men are kind of like but the female athletes, it's like, whoa, holy shit, this is.
Yeah, Kelly.
I feel like I can join. No, I can't equate them to anything. It's a really weird phenomenon, and I think it has a lot to do with the improvements that they make. Like when anybody gets better at something, they want people to see it. So when people get into CrossFit, all of a sudden they get in this shape really quickly, and they get, all of a sudden they want the world to know it. I think that has something to do with it more than anything else.
So the one I'm dying for is who is your favorite person to open for? Who's your favorite comedian to work with? And did you ever meet Sam Kinison?
Never met Kinison. I started right when he died, I think, right? Or I might have been in New York, because I did 10 years in New York before I did L.A., and he was an L.A. comic. So I've opened for Seinfeld. Robin Williams I worked with. Both interesting experiences. I would say the best guy that I work with is Brad Garrett right now, who's like the coolest, nicest guy, most generous, unbelievable guy in the world. And he owns a comedy club in Las Vegas. And I go work there with him at his club, and he's just the greatest guy. He's the cop from Everybody Loves Raymond, the brother.
Yeah.
And but my favorite comedian is probably Dave Attell or Stanhope. And I used to open for Dave Attell, who Insomniac. And Dave's just, it's like he's the comic's comic. He's the one we all go in the room to watch. And, if you ask 99% of the comedians who their favorite is, they'd say Dave. Used to work with Chappelle a lot. Get high with
probably
him.
One of the best comics. To this day, dude, the Dave Chappelle shows, I'm still will go back and watch them, and I'm like, I can only imagine him spitting these out, or presenting them to like a group of people, and then just looking at it being like, this dude is on a whole different level.
Yeah, he was the shit. Him and Mitch Hedberg. When Mitch used to go on stage, it was great to watch Mitch, and it was sad when he passed. I don't like just this last year we lost a couple and they die young. Comics. That's why so I don't die. The drug overdoses and just living in hotel rooms every day. Your life is tough, and working for an hour a day, having that inactive mind, just sitting around going, "What am I going to do now? What am I going to do now?"
Yeah, just fucking. What is it? Idle hands. Idle hands.
Devil's Workshop.
Yeah, the Devils. So.
Yeah, it's really true. So thank God for CrossFit because I'd probably be in bad shape if it wasn't. It keeps me out of trouble on the road. I surf a lot, so I try to book myself when I'm near waves. But sometimes they put me in Kansas or Ohio, and that's when it's like, oh, CrossFit, help me, please.
So Eddie, when you're training, what we do with our guests, just to kind of keep pushing out the podcast and the audio experience, we get a little playlist and we put something together on our Spotify station. So when you're training, can you think of the top 4, 5, 6 songs that you would put on a playlist if you just want to get through 20, 30 minutes and just grind through your workout?
My wife is sitting now across from me. She just came in and she would laugh so hard because what I tell you is what she'd go, he's lying. It's not what he listens to. Kelly Clarkson. But no, you know what? I don't listen to music. I had a guy a long time ago tell me just stay away from music when you work out. But I will tell you, I have on my phone one thing that is amazing. And somebody in Australia gave it to me. It was a mix. It was a mix for Fight Gone Bad. And it's, timed perfectly where every song is like, I guess, what is it? Is it 3 minutes on? Or
it's a minute on.
Minute on for, what is it, 3 rounds or 5 rounds? I forget. Fight Gone Bad.
3 rounds.
Yeah, it's
5 stations.
Well, no, it's 3 5-minute rounds with a minute rest. So it's like fighting.
So every minute the song switches, and then you get your break. And it's funny, during the breaks, they have it's Burgess Meredith from Rocky. Come on, Rock! They're gonna try to break you.
We have to find that.
I have it. I'll give it to you. It is the best thing ever. Because when you're at the end of Fight Gone Bad, going into that last round, it's like, get up.
Get up, you son of a bitch! Rocky loves you, or what is it? Mickey loves you.
You're a bum. I don't know. What would I don't know. I guess I'd go with some of the Rocky songs. I like the Rocky soundtrack.
Eye of the Tiger?
Cheeseball. Yeah. Not Eye of the Tiger. Anything but Eye of the Tiger. Any of the Bill Conti music. The instrumental. I just throw you guys are all like, who's Bill Conti? Maybe the greatest composer of all time.
No, it sounds good. I mean, that's why Luke's basically furiously typing on the Google, looking these things up right now. So
yeah, he did the Rocky song. He was the composer of the original Rocky theme song and all that stuff. Didn't you play in Philadelphia?
Yeah, 5 years. I mean, Rocky's an institution. When we first got there, we ran up the steps and they had moved the statue over to the across the street from the vet. So imagine our disappointment when we ran up the Rocky steps at the museum. All of a sudden, like, the statue isn't there. We're like, where the fuck is this statue? So my brothers and I have a picture of us running up it, and then we had to get in the car and drive over to the sports complex, and then we took a picture in front of it so we could, like, kind of piece it together in a picture. And then they moved it back, thank God. And the better part about that is I think people in Philly really believe Rocky was a fighter. Yeah. Like, it's so ingrained in it. They're like, yeah, he was great. He won the heavyweight. He beat that Clever Lang guy. And you're like, that was a movie. And people are like, no, that happened. No. It did, right?
Yeah, but Billy Burr had the greatest.
We actually met Stallone when they opened the Link, which is Lincoln Financial. All of a sudden, like, the whole place is blowing up. It's this great kind of event. They're opening the stadium. All of a sudden, like, the light pans and there's like this huge spotlight. and it's like Rocky, it's Stallone wearing like a Deuce Staley jersey, I think, like up there in like the top of the, like on some perch, like in the middle of it, and we look up and it's like, "You Adrian!" And I'm like, that's, and all of a sudden the place erupted, and we ended up losing that game.
Well, Bill Burr had a great joke about it. When probably one of the funniest YouTube bits you'll ever see in your life is Bill Burr was getting booed off stage in Philadelphia at the Opie and Anthony big show that they do there, and he turned the whole crowd around. They were booing him, and they were booing everyone, and he wouldn't let them. And in front of 10,000 people, he just started putting down Philadelphia, and he said, "You racists." He goes, "You have one of the who was the boxer that was from Philly?
Joe Frazier.
Joe Frazier." He said, "You got one of the greatest boxers of all time, Joe Frazier, is from your city. You don't even acknowledge him. You've got an imaginary statue of an imaginary hero because you're too racist." And he just keeps putting them down, and he ended up turning into a standing ovation. It is one of the funniest comedy videos you ever watch. Watch Bill Burr in Philadelphia.
Yeah, no, it's I actually remember because WIP, which was the rock, or was the deal, and then there was like WMMR, and I can't remember the other radio station, but I used to go in there and do some radio stuff with them because they were, the rock station. We used to go to the shows. But I remember when WMR and Opie and Anthony and all that, and they would come down and have their big deal in Philly, and the whole like Whip It Out Wednesday, which like, dude, that whole thing just went, like, those guys went so far off at the deep end, it was crazy. I mean,
I was on
we listen to them.
I was on the morning show with them. I was at the mornings and they were the afternoons in New York, and
Okay.
I was there. They all went to jail, and I came into work in the morning, and their whole crew was there, and I said, "What's going on?" They go, "All in jail." Black, everybody's in jail.
Well, wasn't the deal that they had that deal where like people were supposed to have like sex in like public places?
No, that was prior to it. This one was because they had a bus. They found a law that if you were within your own home, you're allowed to be naked, even if people can see in your windows. It's legal to be naked, and so an RV is considered a home. So this company made a glass bus called the Wheeler Bus. And so Opie and Anthony drove it around the city with like naked girls in it, strippers, and their fans would follow them, and they would have like a motorcade. Well, one day the president was in town, and I think it was George Bush at the time, and he's in town, and Opie and Anthony decided to drive the Voyeur bus into his motorcade. So like they got in, and they all went to jail. Like Giuliani arrested everybody, and none of them were charged. They let them out like 48 hours later. But it was funny. I mean, I saw some things there. I remember one day walking into the studio, and there was a woman completely naked with an old woman in a wheelchair, and the woman's sitting there, and the old woman has a hot dog on a stick, and the woman is blowing fire out of her vagina, and the old lady is roasting the hot dog. And I just went, I think I've fucking seen everything. And they go, no, you haven't. Oh. They go, that's her grandmother.
Oh,
dude, that show, I don't know if you guys remember, but like their show, it was unreal. That thing was like an institution in Philly. I mean, they had like oh my God, like I just remember like everywhere you went, they had this WOW. It was Whip It Out Wednesdays, where like girls would flash, and like bumper stickers were just everywhere. I mean, those guys crushed it, and their comedy stuff was pretty good too. They used to come down to the Electric Factory and go down and play shows.
Yeah, they're good guys. I just had Anthony, who's been kicked off the show recently. I just had him on my show a few weeks ago. He was kicked off for a rant that he did on Twitter, and Sirius kicked him off the show. So,
Wow.
Must have been pretty bad.
Yeah, what was his rant about? I mean, seeing as it got Stern.
CrossFit? Was it about CrossFit?
Yeah, it was pretty much. He was. I think he had dropped the N-bomb a few times about a woman who had. A woman had basically beaten him up in Times Square. He was taking pictures of something, or bumped into some woman or something, or she didn't want him taking a picture, and she started hitting him physically. And he didn't do anything about it. Like, he didn't hit her back or anything like that. But he went on he went on Twitter and talked about it and was like this, and blah blah blah, hit me, blah blah blah. His argument is she physically assaulted him, which is illegal. Nobody cares. His argument was I used my freedom of speech in America, and all of a sudden I'm fired. And I understand both sides, which are they're a private company, they can do whatever they want, but whatever this woman did was wrong too. But what he did was wrong also.
Right.
So, well, you saw the deal where the ESPN columnist, who his name escapes me right now, on his podcast, basically called Goodell a liar and went on a pretty massive rant about he's either an idiot or a liar, and I don't think he's an idiot, and went on that pretty good rant, and ESPN suspended him, and I'm like, and the Washington Post, people writing, I'm like, well, yeah, it's because the NFL is ESPN's biggest partner.
Yeah. When there's money involved, look, people. That's what I said about Anthony. Look, they're a private company, or not a public company, whatever. They're for profit, and if they think you're going to hurt their profits, they have every right to fire you. Now, this is America. You're not going to jail for it. That's the great thing about this country. You can say anything you want. That's why I like having the WODcast Podcast being independent. I can say anything I want, and I don't have, we've gotten calls about. We've had so many guests in the beginning of our show that were like, your show, we're going to get in trouble with CrossFit. We're not allowed to be on there, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what are they going to do to you? And I guess a lot of people, that's where their income was coming from, was CrossFit headquarters. So I understood it. And I used to tell Armin, I'm like, this is their job, and they can't come on and make jokes about their boss, So, but they've kind of, I think, because massive, but now it's kind of acceptable. Because what are they going to do? I mean, they're gonna kick everybody out. There's too many outlets for people to go to. And that's why I do like the grid too, because it gives us, you're not going to let us come to the CrossFit Games and do media there? Then we'll do it at Grid.
Well, I mean, we had a pretty good podcast at the Killcliff deal at the Games. I mean, that was hilarious.
Killcliff was the ones that invited us and allowed us to do that, which was great. That was really great of them. We were worried when the CrossFit Games, people came up, they walked by us, and there were a whole bunch of them, and I was like, oh boy, here we go, we're getting thrown out. And they let us. They let us stay. So I guess they don't hate us that much.
No, and it was a pretty good vibe. I mean, we had a bunch of, I guess you could say CrossFit celebrities there, so it was kind of a celebrity hour. I mean, you guys had, there was you. Well, there was me. But it was like Lindsay Valenzuela and, Jesse was there, and Christmas Abbott. So I think, they had a lot of people there. So, I mean, it was pretty good. It was pretty funny.
I think that's how CrossFit kind of feels about us now. It's like, look, everybody's having fun with this. We're not trying to hurt CrossFit. We obviously love fun with it, and it's like you got to be able to laugh at yourself. So that'd be like I could understand the NFL. He called him a liar. He was like, "You're a liar. You're a liar." But I don't know. I think ESPN overreacted a bit.
Well, I mean, what is good? I mean. Well, I mean, ESPN's not necessarily worried about, Goodell. What they're worried about is those, 32 owners that are collectively worth like $1 gazillion, who, have far-reaching, ties. And so all of a sudden, the NFL's biggest deal is the last thing they want is to have a, negative image. I mean, their media image is worth everything because that's why people buy into it. So anytime that they have a partner like ESPN with a major, their biggest columnist, all of a sudden start taking those shots and saying that. I mean, dude,
a liar. He is a liar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know Goodell's a piece of shit. I mean, we know he's a liar. He is a liar. He knew about it. They buried it. The thing came out. I mean, TMZ completely fucked him, and now he's, all this stuff. And I mean, dude, that guy made $47 million. He doesn't make $47 million because he's a good fucking guy. He makes it because he gets the job done and protects the owners.
Right, exactly.
I mean, and then you get Ray Lewis on there, who was hysterical because, that's ESPN putting that moron in that position. I'm like, come on, dude, you're really going to put Ray Lewis on there and have him talk about, good decisions? I mean, come on, dude, it's crazy. I mean, was I the only one? I mean, everybody else saw the irony. I'm like, this is uncomfortable. I mean, he's up there talking, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I mean, he should have looked at him and been like, I know I work for you guys, but don't put me in this situation.
Yeah.
Like,
hold on. Let me wear my bloody shirt while I give the while I talk about it.
well, I mean, you know, like it's it's crazy, and it's like, I mean, and if you look at how the Ray Lewis thing went down, I mean, that was Art Modell, and that, I mean, it was such a shady deal, and you know, that's a stroke, that's the power of the owners, and those guys are in this to make money.
I've always said football is America's religion. Like, if you look at it, the way the molestation case happened with Jerry Sandusky, that happened, and when it came to the forefront, it was like 3 days and Penn State was shut down. The whole school was shut down. They fired everyone from they fired the administrators, they fired the board of trustees, they fired the assistant coaches, they killed the head coach.
They took down Joe Pa's statue.
They took down Joe. They murdered Joe.
Yeah. He died shortly after.
But my point is, they did that, and that was football, and America was like, we will not put up with this. Meanwhile, the Catholic Church has been doing that shit for 200 years, 300, 400, and everyone's like, oh, wow, those wacky priests. Because America cares more about football than anything else in the world. Like, that is number one. So, on that note, I got to run, guys, because I got another appointment I got to get to. I apologize for being late. I've had fun. This is more fun than doing WODcast.
No sweat, man.
Well, that's because we're actually funny, whereas Armin and Scott really aren't that funny, and they just basically just kind of push it to you to be funny. So,
Eddie, you got anything to plug?
I'm at the LA Podcast Festival this week. We're at the Sofitel Hotel in Beverly Hills, and we've got a really good guest. We have Vanity, you can look her up. Make sure you take the Google
Vanity from Vanity 6.
Vanity.
Is this Prince's Vanity?
No, Vanity with 2 eyes. Check him out.
Oh. I'm listening.
So we're going to be doing Talking Shit there, my other podcast, and we have a lot of comedians on the show. And then I will be in, I don't know how far reaching you are, but I leave on Wednesday. I go to Norway and Denmark. I'm doing shows all over those 2 countries. So my tour.
Where are you going? Are you going to Copenhagen?
I believe I am in Copenhagen. I think I have 2 shows in Copenhagen.
So have you ever been to Copenhagen?
No, never been.
So you got to go to Christiania.
Christiania, what is that?
Yeah. So there's a kind of an interesting deal. There was an old military base in Copenhagen, and around the 60s, the hippies went in and took control of it, and it became an unincorporated free city. So it's right in the center of Copenhagen, and it is probably the most surreal thing that I've ever seen. And when I went there, I mean, we went to Christiania. You walk through this imagine like this hippie commune sign that says Christiania. We went to a bar and we're drinking beer, and I think like the newest record they have was like, the Rolling Stones 1966, type stuff. I mean, it was just a super cool place. We went to dinner there. I mean, it's just a completely free city, and just not really off. It's totally off the grid. So it's a pretty wild thing. So if you go there, you definitely got to go see it.
I think you are the most worldly NFL football player ever. Seriously. Like, I think most football players, they play in the NFL, then they go home and they tell stories about their old days of playing. And you travel all over the world and do all these cool, everything I've ever done. You're like, yeah, I've done that, and but you got to find this. It's in the corner. And you knock twice and then give the guy the secret handshake. Then you end up meeting the mafia. The mafia is going to take you down the street. When you shoot guys, then they're going to give you the gun. You have to shoot the guy in the leg. Once you shoot the guy in the leg, they'll give you the free beer.
The beer's great.
Yeah.
A little warm, but
it's all right. What are we doing?
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being the funniest person on our podcast ever.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not too funny today. I've had a crazy day. But had fun. Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.
No problem, Eddie. Thanks.
Thanks, Eddie.
See you.
Well, that's good shit. I'm glad he could pop on.
Yeah.
But, this might be the longest one ever.
Ooh, way over.
This is a long one. Well, let's just give a little Wade's Army and then we'll kick it off, guys. Anybody listening, Wade's Army, we are at 38% of our goal. We got another 47 days. We've basically raised just under $23,000. And if you're listening to this and you have not participated and bought a shirt and got in and made a deal, we are going to come look for you.
Yep.
So if you're a field stronger, we're going to start hammering this on every day in the narrative and also on the forums, and start posting it every day on CrossFit Football on our social media. And I expect everybody to really get involved and be anticipating Wade's Day, which is coming November 11th. And I think we're on track. I mean, we're at a good point. We're posed, but we need everybody's help.
So head over to wadesarmy.org. There's all the information there, or like Wade's Army on Facebook, or follow Wade's Army HQ on Twitter.
You can donate on our pages if you don't want to create your own.
Yeah.
Donate on my page.
Yeah, like Luke Summers.
Team Webborn.
Callie Hinsman.
Luke Summers.
Join.
My bag got stolen. I deserve this.
Yeah.
I know I can do it.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Cool.
Good
Later.
show. Bye.
Bye.